You're listening to a bite-sized edition of Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. But if you want to hear our review of a thrilling third test between England and India from Lord's, then you can watch that on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. And then you'll get the full show. But today we'll discuss the news that Liam Dawson has replaced Shoaib Bashir in the England Test squad for next week's fourth test. And we'll reflect on Jimmy Anderson's inclusion in the 100 as a wildcard pick. We'll discuss two historic moments which occurred this week as Italy qualified for the T20 World Cup for the first time, for any major tournament for the first time, and the West Indies were dismissed for just 27. So still plenty more to come on this shortened edition of the show. You're listening to Following On. By now, most of you will know that Liam Dawson has been selected as Shoaib Bashir's replacement for the fourth test in Old Trafford. First of all, we had Karen Nair making an international return after 8 years, and now we've got Liam Dawson making a return to the test side after 8 years. Much has been said, Harmy. I'm not going to throw much into the comment section on this, other than to say that if you regard the county championship as your testing ground, then he's been player of the year for the last 2 years, with scoring runs, averaging 50, scoring hundreds, taking wickets, maybe he's not as tall as Rob Key and Brendan McCullum would like their spinner to be, but my goodness, he's 35 years old. He couldn't do any more, could he? It goes back to what Rob Key said, that comment about, do we want to select people who we know we can trust and rely on, or do we want to go for something that might have an element of the unexpected? And they've gone for the tried and tested and trusted.
Yeah, and I think it was important that they did. It's a little bit like the Jack Leach going back to Mo and Ali. I don't think it's a backward step at all. I think this is a very, very streetwise move in a challenging situation because you're going to play against India. And I think what we need is a street fighter. And I think we need somebody who's streetwise. And I think in Liam Dawson, I think he was the only choice. There's plenty of other good young spinners who are knocking around who will challenge Shoaib Bashir over the course of the next however long, next few months, weeks, years, whatever. But I think right now, England needs somebody who now, possibly because Chris Woakes might miss out because he's had a quiet time, somebody to come back at number 8, somebody can be a little bit more wily, a little bit more in your face if need be, because this series, as boys are bubbling up, they are going at each other like you'd not believe. So I think Liam Dawson deserves his chance. I think the only reason he didn't get his chance before was because I think he'd had enough of going round. He'd done his paperwork. He's sort of paper round. He had been carrying drinks for quite a while, and I think he was like, "I'm sick of carrying drinks. If you want me to play, come and get me when I'm playing." And there's nothing wrong with that because he's gone through that process of being in the squads. I think this is the right call at the right time in England. They need somebody from an all-round experience point of view with bat ball and with sort of calmness and demeanour. We've seen in the shortest format of the game when he came back not so long ago when he played against for Harry Brook and against the West Indies. I think this is a good selection because I think England might have to leave out Chris Woakes at Manchester, and we'll need somebody to bat at number 8.
Okay, Sam Cook and Craig Overton have been released from the squad to go and play in the county championship. I don't know whether you saw Darren Lehman tweeted, England need Kelvin Harrison. He has the skill and the temperament, and besides, who else is there? So there's that question for you very quickly. And also, are we ever going to find out what Rian Ahmed did wrong?
Honestly, I don't know. It just seemed as though they liked having Rian around, but didn't want to pick it. It just seemed as that way. We love Rian. We love his character. We love the boy. He is a really, really good boy to have around. He's got a little bit of everything, but possibly not quite what we need it. The business section of it, whether it's the bowling or the batting. The Calvin Harrison one, I think is a little bit like what was said before. You've got Jack Carson then at Sussex talking about Ryan, his younger brother, who's getting a lot of good noise through, especially through Graham Swan. Not against India, 2-1 in the series with 2 to go, and leading into an Ashes series as well. I don't think we could pick anybody better than Liam. To be fair, Liam Dawson. Right now, at this moment, I think we need somebody who is not going to be overawed by playing against India. Liam will be a little bit, but not to the extent that possibly Calvin might be, or Rian might be, or Jack Carson might be, or the next one, the next one, the next one. There's a lot to choose from, I think, who are possibly in the same boat as Shoaib Bashir. High ceiling level, untried and tested, and a little bit young and naive for a game of cricket against India when this series is about to explode. I think we've picked the right person. I get what
And
Darren's saying. I get what Darren's saying. The boy's got talent, but this is. I think this is beyond the talent bit. I think you need character, and I think Liam's got the character to go in there and fit in nicely.
yeah, and maybe not the right time and place for somebody to be given their first cap. Okay, finally, and there's a dozen cricketers in the men's and women's 100 who would be delighted by their perhaps unexpected, but I think largely very well deserved extra payday, being picked as wild cards. The two that have attracted most headlines are Jimmy Anderson, who'll be 43 when he plays for the Manchester Originals, and Rocky Flintoff, who's been well, I don't know, has he been picked by his dad? I mean, would Andrew have been in charge of would he have said that's my wild card, or would there be a selection committee? Surely it wouldn't just be his own decision. Anyway, they're the headline stories, so give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I think we'll start with the rookie one. I think it's a good move for Northern Superchargers. I think it's a good move that he's gone to where his dad is. He's 17 years old, remember. So I think we need somebody. You need somebody to look after him. Whether he'll play or not, likely not in the start of the tournament. But as the tournament goes on, you just never know. And I think having the old man around might just help him, because if he goes to a different county, all of a sudden the Flintoff name is there, and he's got no sort of comfort blanket to sort of go and seek advice. You was seen during the Lions trip, and we've seen the times that he's sort of represented young England. When that's a difficult name to carry off, and he's done it very well so far. And I think having that around might just help him get to, when he's 18, 19, 20, and then he can stand on his own 2 feet. I think at this point, I think it's a good move to get him into the 100, because the talent's there. He's not there because his dad's there. He's not there because he's named. Rocky's there because he's talented, and England see a ceiling level that they've seen, quite a few of the younger players. So I'm pleased he's with his dad, and that'll be a good thing for both parties. Jimmy Anderson, I said at the start of the summer when Jimmy said I want to play in the 100, I was like, Jimmy, just coach somebody in the 100. England should give him a franchise, start his coaching qualifications, and get him started. And then he's played in the T20, and he looks as good as any 23-year-old in that T20 competition. In the Blast so far this season, Jimmy Anderson has looked every bit as good as any 23-year-old. So he's proven, like he has to everybody else, age is just a number, and I can see him doing even more damage with this 100 ball, because you think a white kookaburra goes round corners. By all accounts, this one is uncontrollable at times, and the one person who will control it nicely will be the greatest, Jimmy Anderson.
14 wickets in 8 games. So I just wonder whether Rocky will be able to spend his £31,000 in a way that he wants to, or whether it'd be given an allowance.
I think he might be given an allowance. I'm sure Fred will say he's had that off me already. So yeah, look, I think from that front to the money side of it, it's great. I'm sure it'll be well looked after. I can't see him getting it and he's going to go out and spend it on a new car or anything like that. He's got his feet on the ground as Rocky, and Andrew wants what's best for his son. but I'm sure he always wants what's best for the Superchargers as well. So I'm sure it's a good fit and it's a good match, and it's a nice little 18th birthday party. But when it comes round, I tell you, just hopefully when he's 18, he doesn't drink like his dad, because that 31 grand won't last long.
You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll round up the week's other big stories as Italy make history and the West Indies also make history by being rolled over for the second lowest score in Test history. Welcome back to part 2 of Following On as we talk about the West Indies' performance in the third Test match against Australia at Sabina Park, or should we be talking about Australia's performance? Unfortunately, the headlines made for the wrong reasons, with the home side being bowled out for just 27, the second lowest Test score in the history of the game. We forget, of course, in times like this, just how well Alzari and Shamar Joseph bowled. Shared 9 wickets, bowled Australia out for 126. But we're joined by an old friend of the show in mourning once again, I'm afraid, after so many false starts and, so many. West Indies cricket is back. It's Machel St Patrick Hewitt from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast to reflect on what I suppose everybody is calling a new low, Mash. Bowled out for 27. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say to you, really. So I'll just let you talk.
Thank you, Manners. Good to be back. I genuinely don't know where to start on this one. I think, in truth, I'm still trying to get my head around it and still trying to process what it means in the wider schemes of West Indies cricket law and the current iteration of the side in the 21st century. Last night, somebody sent me a message, and this will be close to home for Harmison, Harmies, right? In that they said to me, when West Indies got bowled out for 47 against England in 2004, that was worse than the 27 yesterday. And I said, oh, why is that? And they said, because the side that England bowled out for 47 was better than this. It had Gale in, it had Lara in, Chanderpaul was in there, Sarwan was in there. And so their argument was that side could bat. So England, and then obviously Harmy took 7 for 12, I think it was. So England destroying West Indies for 47, they felt was a bigger low. Whereas this side with the 27 against an all-time Australian bowling attack with the pink ball, because there's a bit of an acknowledgement in West Indies cricket that we can't bat, or there are serious struggles with being able to bat in any conditions where the ball is moving a lot. And I don't know if that's people attempting to cope with the 27. I don't know if that's where it is, but I tell that story to almost say that it really kind of paints in stark light how bad the batting is, and the view of the batting, and almost the belief that, well, what else can we do? And I guess to put it in context, Australia got bowled out regularly through this series for 250 generally. So, maybe, so they got a few 270s in there or something like that, but they got bowled out for sub 250. West Indies bowled well in this series. They took 60 Australian wickets. The West Indian bowling attack is good. And I guess the context and the argument would be, if Australia struggled in this series, bear in mind nobody scored a century in this series, right? If Australia struggled, it stands to reason that West Indies would struggle even more, if that makes sense. That last innings, Australia made, I think, 115 in their second innings in Jamaica. If they made 115, I had predicted that West Indies wouldn't get much more beyond 50. I didn't think it'd be 27 though. So there is some kind of context within it all.
Match, I get what you're saying. I mean, the side that we beat and we bowled out, it was a better side. It's had some great West Indian players in two, I can say, in Shiv and Brian, but it was a one-off. I mean, that side got bowled out, cheaply. It was a little bit of a one-off. This side, and you can put up with it, if you're going through transition. But how do you sort of assess where this is with the West Indies state? Because I look at this and think, well, put up with the fact that we have a few low scores. If there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, and in 6 months will be better, 18 months will be better, would be much better for playing against Stark Cummins, Hazelwood, Boland, and Lyon. Or is this 27 all out and think this could be the norm for quite a while?
It's a good question. I mean, what was it? A year and a half ago, West Indies went to Australia and won. Now, I've always seen that victory at the Gabba as almost like an aberration. Like any sports team can have a good time, a good day, in that sense, a good test match. Since that win at the Gabba, they've gone to England and lost 3-0. They've lost at home to South Africa. They've drawn at home to Bangladesh. And then they started this year drawing in Pakistan on dreadful pitches that ragged from ball one, right? And I think to kind of focus in on your point there, Harmy, the one constant for me through those stretches of defeats in England, at home South Africa, even losing to Bangladesh at home, is that the batting just hasn't shown up. In the last World Test Championship cycle between 2023 and 2025, West Indies had the worst record for centuries. I think we only scored 2 in the whole cycle, in that two-year cycle. Already this now in 2025 we've got none. Where we go to India next, we're unlikely to do anything in India. Then we go to New Zealand, we're unlikely to do anything in New Zealand. So when you're saying it's unlikely to get, but it's not. And I don't know where you and Manners stand on it, but this will again raise those serious question marks about should there be tiered international cricket. And we can't get away from the question. I know that there's tradition and West Indies should be playing the likes of Australia, but when the disparity is so huge, it again brings into sharp focus, do West Indies gain more by playing Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Ireland, Afghanistan, Bangladesh? Do they gain more from competitive series against them versus these kind of huge gaps in quality against Australia?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I'll bring Manners into this, because Manners is, as much as I've played a lot of international cricket and commentated on it, I mean, Manners, you've commentated on a huge amount of cricket across all 4 corners of the world. We're commentating on a completely different sport, aren't we? England versus India compared to where the West Indies are. We talk about tiers and we talk about everything that goes, but you have to think that the tiered system, as much as I don't like it, we've just seen South Africa win the World Test Championship, and they've hardly played any cricket. We've beaten New Zealand, and you see the standard of their cricket, and they're getting better. Even Zimbabwe are looking to play more and more Test cricket. Where's your take on this, man? Because you've been across the spectrum, from South Africa, covering with England and everything that goes with it. Is it inevitable that we have to have Test match tiers in cricket because of the way possibly the West Indies look at red ball stuff?
It's death row. If you put countries like the West, or regions like the West Indies, into Division 2, they'll never take the step back up to Division 1. You have to play against the best. And if that means bruising, embarrassing defeats, then at least you know in real time, in real life, what you have to do and where you need to be. I mean, I think that at least the West Indies are taking wickets. I know there have been some dodgy pitches, and I mean, it would be worse if they were conceding 600 and not taking wickets, and not scoring runs. But I do think that it's if you create a Division 2, that's what it will stay as. There'll be no way back, and I don't think that Test cricket certainly will be sustainable in regions like the West Indies. So just before we let you go, Mash, I don't know Dr. Kishore Shallow, the Cricket West Indies president, but he's just called an emergency review committee, I think comprising Sir Clive Lloyd, Sir Viv Richards and Brian Lara. There may be others on it. But this does feel like, there's been lots of these. I mean, they've been going on for 20 years, but this does feel like the last roll of the dice. I don't know what those great men can do and what they can recommend. And I mean, but then I mean, it's I don't know if it's a knee-jerk reaction or whether he's got some really bold ideas and is prepared to make some very, very brave and radical decisions. Do you remember when Zimbabwe took a voluntary leave of absence from Test cricket for 6 years? I don't know whether anything like that's in. I hope not. I mean, we all hope that the West Indies do rediscover their mojo and ability to compete, but it all just seems a bit desperate. What measures do you think might be implemented?
I'm with you, Manners. I personally don't. I get it. First of all, actually, let me start again. I get why they've done it. I think this defeat, but more importantly, the 27 has led to a kind of region-wide reaction of that's it. That's it. No more. No more. We can't keep seeing this. And when those things happen, the head of an organization has to react. So it does feel like a knee-jerk reaction in so much as let's go for the greats. Everyone agrees, Lloyd, Viv, Lara, right? You can't, who can really say no to that? And that almost is a response to a certain niche of West Indian cricket society that will say, they're finally reaching out to legends again to try and find the answers. But I'm with you, man, as what answers can they give? There is nothing with respect to Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards and Brian Lara. There's nothing that they can suggest that hasn't already been spoken about, hasn't already been tried. So I'm very skeptical about it. I understand why it's been done. I understand why the statement's been released. Unless they come together and make a radical decision, which would have to involve the governments of the region to say, right, we are going to do, let me give you an example. We are going to commit every single country in the Caribbean now to building individual high performance academies in our country. Not Cricket West Indies sorting it out. We're going to just do it ourselves. Unless it's something like that, I don't see what you could even do in the short term that can really fix anything. And I'll kind of end with this because I think it's quite interesting for the audience to know. 4 years ago, after we lost to Ireland, which was another low, 4 years ago after we lost to Ireland at home in, I think it was an ODI series, Kieran Pollard, who was the then captain, came out and said there is a batting epidemic in the Caribbean. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to see performances like this more regularly. That was 4 years ago. And he was right. He was right. And I remember it so well. And the reason I recall it is because at the time, people came out and said, it's a dereliction of duty from Pollard. He's throwing the players under the bus. And Pollard's explanation at the time was, I'm just talking about what I've been seeing in my career. The batting is significantly declining in the region, and we're going to find that we won't be able to compete on a regular basis. Fast forward 4 years, we're here now. Do you see what I mean? So when you say to me, okay, they're talking to Lara, to Viv, to Lloyd, it's like the horse has bolted already. Like, what
Can't go back for them.
Sorry, Harmony. Sorry, go on.
They can't go back for them.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you look at legends, and I mean, just finally, you look at legends, and the legends come in. But what can the legends do? I mean, Viv is working in franchise worlds. Brian's working in franchise worlds. This is the problem that the West Indies is having. So, I mean, it just seems a mess. It does, and it's a shame because that part of the world is a historic. It's unbelievable for cricket.
Indeed.
Maybe we could have a handicap system where the West Indies start each innings with 150.
Now that's a good idea. That's something I can work with.
Machel St Patrick Hewitt from the the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. It's always a pleasure, and you know what? Next time the West Indies win a Test match, we're going to get you on. Next time they win any match, we're going to get you on, because I'm sick and tired of only getting you on the show to talk about the dark moments.
We'll see how long it takes.
Okay, let's talk MLC then, Harmy. MI New York looked like they were going to finish bottom when they won they lost 5 out of their first 6 games. But they've come storming back and beaten the in-form Washington Freedom in the final to win their second MLC title in 3 years. Interesting game, interesting tournament, actually. Quinton de Kock's been very, very quiet for MI New York, but made 77 in the final. Still, Washington Freedom had Glenn Maxwell at the crease at the end, and seemed to have the run chase well in hand, replying to 180. They finished 175 for 5. Glenn Mitchell just couldn't get going, and Maxwell proved that sometimes the ball just stubbornly refuses to hit the middle of the bat. I mean, he's made 15 off 16 balls. He's made 50 off 16 balls in the past, but it just could barely hit it off the square. Curious. It happens.
It does happen, and it was. I thought the pitch didn't look too bad. I thought the pitch looked okay for the final. And I say that because it's been a good tournament. It's not a long tournament, but there's not as many pitches, and you constantly playing the same ones. It tends to happen as the tournament gets on. The final and the semi-finals become a little bit more tired. The pitches and the scores aren't as big. Bear in mind, we've seen a score of 260 in one of the games, which was madness. But I mean, that is bowlers going. That is the bowler's graveyard. So, but no, you pay the money for the big boys, and the big boys, in Quinton de Kock, he stood up. I mean, the freedom, God, I mean, they had the tournament, didn't they? I mean, they were walking the tournament. They were after 5 games, they were the top of the table, and winning comfortably. And then when they got to the final, even at the end, I think there were 150. There were 150. They had 25 off the last 2.4 overs, 2.5 overs. And with Glenn Phillips and Glenn Maxwell at the crease, you're going, I mean, it should just be, give it to the freedom all day long. But unfortunately, the bowler can win. And I can't pronounce his Agarkar, I think his name is. His skill sets at the end there was fantastic. So as much as a batter can whack it out of the park, and in franchise cricket, majority of the times they do whack it out of the park. If you've got a death bowler, if you've got somebody with skills and tricks, they're worth their weight in gold. And we've seen it so many times, the likes of who we've been watching, Bumrah in the IPL and Rabada and people like that. Death bowlers are worth their just as much as a top order batter who's going to score your runs. So brilliant from de Kock. He probably deserved to be on the winning side. And it's been great to get snippets. We haven't seen them all. It's been on the cricket YouTube channel. And it's been a tournament which I've thoroughly enjoyed. What I've seen, the crowds were up. A few messages back and forward for Liam Plunkett. He's really enjoyed it, and we heard from Johnny Graves at the start of the tournament about what we thought we were going to get, and I'd be interested if we can track him down and get him on next week or the week after, and see if he thinks it's gone better than he thought it was going to be, because obviously he left the Cricket West Indies to go there. But all in all, from a distance and from what I saw, it's been well done by obviously talkSPORT's YouTube channel, and it's also been a good tournament for the players that have been involved. And a final didn't disappoint, because I think there was some drama towards the end.
Just quickly, your impression on how well it's establishing itself in the global market, in the global calendar. You would have heard from players. Obviously, Liam Plunkett is a good old mate of yours, and he's still going strong. But we covered the tournament right at the very beginning when it was just getting off the ground, and we spoke to a couple of owners, didn't we? They said that it was a 3 to 5 year project, that they weren't expecting to make money. They are paying big salaries, and I know for a fact, let's be brutally honest about it, that there are some big names who are primarily motivated by the check, by the salary, but there are many others. Many who began their careers in other countries who are really very, very much established and feeling at home. And they're, this isn't just a one-off tournament. There's minor league cricket as well. They play a lot of games, a lot of cricket. And from what I'm hearing, I mean, Heinrich Klaassen retired from international cricket. He absolutely loves the Seattle Orcas. They say they look after him and his family incredibly well. He was asked why he hadn't accepted a bigger offer from one of the other franchises, and he said, because I'm happy. I love the tournament. I'm really, really enjoying it. And it is only 3 years, so I'm not wanting to tempt fate, but it seems to have found itself a little niche window and it seems to be going pretty well after 3 years.
I think it'll be. I think it'll rocket, me. I think it's going to go. It's going to go right to the top. I mean, you've just mentioned 3 or 4 names there. In the final, you had Kieran Pollard. Not to stick the boot into Machel Patrick Hewitt, but you had the likes of Kieran Pollard and Nicholas Pooran playing in the obviously in the final. You had Glenn Maxwell and the other team in the Freedom team. So you throw in Heinrich Klaassen there. There's some big names there, some stellar names in world cricket in the white ball format who have gone over to America. And do you know what I look at it, man? As not, I'm not going to say anybody's names here, but there's a couple of people who I've spoke to who played in the SA20, who might not have gone to the IPL, who much rather enjoy the SA20, who will much rather enjoy the MLC, because yes, they'll get paid possibly a quarter, a quarter, I mean 2/3 of what they would get in the IPL for a similar amount of, for a little bit less time. But the quality of life and the way of life is far much better. So if you're an international player and you get a window and somebody's going to offer you some money to go and play in the IPL, I mean, that and it's not a criticism of the IPL, not far from it, but the actual lifestyle quality when you're across there, you are in. I mean, it is a roller coaster. I mean, you're in a hotel where you can't leave. You're on a bus. You're on a bus to a ground where it's just wall to wall, street to street, noise and emotion. Where you go over to America, nobody has a clue who you are. Really, they don't. You can take your family. You can go and play golf every day. You can walk, sightsee and everything that goes with it. Go to South Africa and you can go to the parks, and you can go to the golf course, and you can live on estates like Pearl Valley and play at Pearl for a fraction of the price. But the quality of life that you have with your family, I can see a lot more players choosing that route rather than the IPL. If they're not one of the big names in the IPL. So if somebody's a middle rung player in the IPL or a lower rung player in the IPL, and he's got a young family, I can see them going to America, and I can see them going to South Africa to take the money to understand that, get a better way of life, and a little bit less of the less noise in what Indian cricket can be.
And there's just so much money at stake, and players feel that, and and it's brutal, and it's ruthless, and it's unforgiving, and reputations count for very little. And it's a tough gig, the IPL, and I'd like to say that I think most people earn every single one of the dollars that they get paid. It's a lot of them. Now we have to move on, and this is a story that I would like to have dedicated a whole section to, so maybe we can come back to it. Harmy, we've only got 2 minutes to discuss the fact that Italy have qualified for the T20 World Cup. It's absolutely magnificent story. Yes, of course, it's a minority niche sport, but it has been played in the country for many, many years. And, I mean, there are so many things I want to say. Joe Burns has captained the team with such passion, and people think, well, he's Australian. Yeah. He was born in Australia, played 23 tests for Australia, and scored 4 test hundreds, by the way, which is a pretty good return from 23 tests. But his grandparents emigrated from Europe to Australia after the Second World War. He still feels very connected, albeit not for the last couple of generations, to Italy. He's incredibly proud of his Italian roots. Same with Grant Stewart. There were 6 Australian-born players in that Italian team that qualified. Emilio Gay, Durham opener. Harry Manenti played. You can hear that he's got Italian roots. Played a couple of BBL games. But Joe Burns just dedicated his life. His brother Dominic tragically passed away last year, and he moved to Italy and committed himself to getting the team to the T20 World Cup. And he just said, okay, I don't mind if some of you are amateur, and I don't mind if we get beaten, but I want us to be the best prepared team when we get to the T20 World Cup. It's just a magnificent story. Not expecting them to make the make the knockout stages. But you know what? There is a real Italianness about it. I suppose that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. It's a great story. During my time at Durham, we had Michael Di Veneto who went over and played some cricket for Italy, and like we found out, Manners, we found out in a brilliant way during that first Test match at Headingley, sitting on a balcony, and more messages coming in from all over the world, listening to the overseas commentary of England versus India. It's a global game. It's not played by 12 test countries. It's a global game. And not long ago, I was in Guernsey, and I had to present the caps for players who had represented Guernsey in the last 4 years. And I think there's about 40 odd caps. And, these guys are so passionate about the game of cricket. They love watching the icons, like the series that we're doing at this moment in time. But there is also a pathway through, and talk so much passionately when Mohamed Nabi wins another game against a new country, because he's played against that many countries to get to where he is. There's a pathway through. Afghanistan came from the very, very bottom to being one of the, throughout the 2020, the T20 format, to being, it wouldn't surprise me in my lifetime if Afghanistan don't win a trophy, especially under Jonathan Trott. So Italy have a chance to build something, and the building something has to start from somewhere. And
Okay.
Joe Burns, who's done that in such a way where he feels as though this is the blueprint and this is the other platform we have to do it from.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and there's funding coming apparently from the Italian Olympic Committee to help create a more structured grassroots game and system in the country. It's absolutely fantastic. Final word, Scott's in my ear. It's telling me we're out of time, but I've got to say, I don't know who Casey Aldridge and Archie Bailey are, but I'm told that they've been identified as future England fast bowlers and all-rounder. And they're both going to Durham. They've both been signed by Durham. So what is it? You've got 30 seconds about Durham that makes it the fast bowler's choice as finishing academy.
Well, it's not so much the finishing academy. Durham's been a great fast bowling producer of them. And I've always said it's coming from mining towns, mining villages, hard workers. Hard workers produce fast bowlers, because like we've seen Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer, Bryden Carson, Chris Wilkes this week, along with the Indian bowlers, bowling is difficult, especially playing on pitches like what we've had in the last two Test matches. He strong enough at one discipline. Well, going to Durham's finishing school for fast bowlers, he might just tip the balance when it comes towards an England selection, hopefully for Casey.
You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And we'll be back at the same time next week to look back to look ahead to the fourth Test between England and India at Old Trafford. But for now, this has been another shortened edition of Following On.